Some viewers are curious as to how I made this coil wire to prevent kinking when you made sharp bends in fuel hoses. Well, this isn't easy to make. It requires a special machine, and the wire is also a wire that is coated so it will not rust. So I've decided to offer this on my website in 6-inch lengths. You'll be able to use it on your own fuel system to prevent kinking and to reduce the possibility of chafing when hoses rub against other components. Now, 6 inches is more than enough for 4 to 5 applications in different areas. It depends a lot on how much you stretch this out. Now, in this case, you'll see this being used just for chafing purposes. It bends like this, and it rubs up against the frame of the car, so you can spread the wire out. And when you bend it, it's going to be more than enough to prevent chafing of this particular hose. You can see the wires do not need to stay close together. Now, the way this is coiled, it's going to fit over 7mm hose quite loosely. Remember, you don't want it too loose, particularly if you're using it to prevent hose kinking. Then we take a 7.5mm hose, and it will slide on snugly. And then we go to an 8mm hose, which is the type of hose used on most of the diesels. This is 5/16 hose. It doesn't slide on very easily, but I'm going to show you how you can cut short pieces and to get it to work on a 5/16 hose. So the first thing you want to do is, let's say you're going to use about 1.5 inches. That's the normal amount you'd use for most applications. So to cut it, you're going to have to spread it out a little bit. So you choose the length you need, then come in here and just spread it a little bit like this, see? Then you can cut it. You'll need a good set of wire cutters because this is hard wire. Okay. And then if you have any excess sticking out, you know, from the bend, this is the time you'll want to trim that off. Grab a hold of the first 3 or 4 wires on each end and pull. And you have to pull kind of steadily like this, and kind of pull it out like that till you get the stretch you want. Okay, a little bit more. All right, there you go. So that's a good stretch for something you want to use to prevent hose chafing. And you can see here that it easily goes on to the 7mm, the 7.5mm hose, and once again on the 8mm 5/16, it's a little tight. So in order to get it on this hose, what you will have to do is cut off the 2 ends that are really tightly wound. And just cut off any extra that might be sticking out. So look here, you've got it cut, you've got it stretched where you want it. That'll be good if you're trying to make a sharp bend. But now the trick is getting it on the hose. See, it's real tight. You can kind of twist it on, but even then it's a little snug. So what I'm going to use is just a little bit of synthetic grease. And I'll just put a little bit of synthetic grease on the hose. You can wipe this off after it's on. It's not going to harm the hose at all. All right, now you can take the wire and you can kind of twist it and move it into position on the hose to where you want it. Then you can spread it back out. So I realize this is pretty tight for a 5/16 hose, but on the other hand, you want it real tight if you're going to try to bend the hose 90 degrees. Look at that. That's beyond 90 degrees, and the hose is not kinking. Let me take the other end of the hose, and if you bend it beyond 90 degrees, look what happens. It's going to kink the hose and really limit flow. So you can use this for multiple applications. Just keep in mind it's going to be real tight on the 8mm. The 7 and 7.5 are used on most of the gasoline high pressure hoses, and the larger hose is used on most of the diesels. But this is really handy to have in your toolbox when you're working on these old cars.